Good evening. Welcome to Inside City Hall for Tuesday, November 18th, 2025. I'm Errol Lewis. A meeting between President Donald Trump and Zohran Mamdani could get as much attention as an international summit, and it sounds like it could happen even before Mamdani is sworn in as our next mayor. After publicly talking tough and trading threats, both men say that they are preparing to put aside differences for the greater good of New York City. Our Bernadette Hogan joins me now with tonight's top story. Good evening.
Good evening, Errol. And so we might see some evolution between both the president and Mayor-elect Mamdani, who was very tough on Donald Trump, especially with the rhetoric of his victory night speech the last night of the campaign. But we'll see how that now transfers into a working relationship.
He's a communist. That's not a socialist.
This is not only how we stop Trump, it's how we stop the next one.
Despite talking about each other a lot, President Donald Trump and Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani have never talked on the phone or met in person. Now, both sides are preparing for contact.
The pitch is, how do we benefit New York City?
Gearing up for a meeting with Trump, members of Mamdani's transition team told New York One they're working with the commander-in-chief's aides to put a date on the books. Sources told New York One Trump has directly texted with billionaire ally John Katzimatidis about Mamdani. Last weekend,
He would like to come to Washington and meet, and we'll work something out.
Mamdani's incoming first deputy mayor, Dean Fuleihan, brings experience with Trump's first administration, when he worked under former Mayor Bill de Blasio during the pandemic. Forging a relationship with Mamdani in early 2025, his behind-the-scenes guidance is coming into focus.
How do we benefit the residents in New York City? If we both care about New York City, how does that happen?
Team Mamdani wants to protect $8.5 billion included in the city budget, plus additional federal dollars to the city hospital and public housing systems.
All this transition is a discussion of how you deal with both opportunities and how you deal with problems. We hope that the president will care about those same things for New York City.
The city's only Republican in Congress recently gave the president insight about Mamdani.
I've expressed my concerns about New York City's future under a Mayor Mamdani to President Trump.
An unlikely ally for both sides, she's preparing to go to bat against other Republicans who want to see the city suffer.
We have to work together with him to try to make sure that we protect public safety, that we deliver infrastructure and transportation funding, and that, Republicans do not punish New York City for the outcome of this election.
Meanwhile, a new threat.
We're going to be coming to New York City. We're already there now. Teams are there now. But we will increase the enforcement presence in New York City.
U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement is also expanding its physical setup within the city, sources confirmed to New York One. Meanwhile, Governor Kathy Hochul is watching.
Governor Hochul directed me after what we saw happen in LA around ICE and the National Guard deployment to start to put together plans to manage if that were to happen in New York.
Working with New York business leaders and now running weekly meetings with Hands Off New York City, a coalition of activist organizations, recently adding Team Mamdani.
We're sort of bringing them up to speed with all of the organizing and planning we've done to date, and then frankly dividing up responsibilities moving forward.
Bray says Mamdani should take a page from Hochul's book. She's slammed federal cuts to SNAP and ICE enforcement while negotiating a reversal of Trump's death sentence on congestion pricing, revived a key wind energy project, and greenlit a controversial gas pipeline.
The most important things to stress right now are the fact that, New York is an economic engine for the country. And this White House is invested in the economy writ large.
So to sum it up, Errol, a lot of preparations being made both at the state and the city level, and it remains to be seen when the pair are going to meet.
If they meet before January 1st,
Right.
the conversations would be somewhat hypothetical since
Right.
Mamdani does not control any part of city government at this point.
Right, exactly. And part of it, just talking to some people on the transition team, they're hoping that Mamdani's style and his personality might be able to charm the president. President Donald Trump has a good relationship with Governor Kathy Hochul, a Democrat, partially because, as I've been told, the president and her kind of get along on a personal level, and I think Team Mamdani is hoping that they can push past the politics for now. But like you just said, when rubber hits the road and New York is asking for billions of dollars, either in new funding or to curtail some cuts, that could be a bigger problem.
Okay, thanks very much, Bernadette. Meanwhile, tonight, a new poll shows Governor Kathy Hochul leading her opponents in next year's election, in one case by more than 20 percentage points. But the poll also shows dissatisfaction among New York voters that could allow Hochul's likely Republican opponent, Congresswoman Elise Stefanik, to build a case against the governor. Our Dan Rivoli joins me now to break it all down. Good evening, Dan.
Good evening, Errol. One campaign season ends and another one begins right after. So Siena released this poll, 802 registered voters in New York, and it gives a snapshot of how these voters are feeling about the direction of their state as we embark on this new campaign season. Let's take a look at the head-to-head. Governor Kathy Hochul up against her likely Republican opponent, Congresswoman Elise Stefanik. You can see there that 20-point spread. 52% for Governor Hochul, 32% for Stefanik. Interestingly, this is very similar to the breakdown voters give when they're asked about the generic House ballot. For the generic Democrat would get 55% of voters said they would support a generic Democrat, 55%, and a generic Republican, 32%. So you see Kathy Hochul's doing as well as a generic Republican. Now, let's take a look at how voters are feeling about the direction of the state. Right track, wrong direction. Wrong direction has a plurality. 45% of voters said they felt New York was going in the wrong direction. 39% said it was going in the right track. Now let's look at how voters feel about the incumbent governor, Kathy Hochul. Her approval is down from the last Siena poll, but voters still think she's doing a decent job as governor. 52% approve of how she's handling her job to 43% who say they disapprove at how she's handling her job. And yet, look at the favorability. Her favorability did drop among voters, and it's at 43%. And more voters, 45%, have an unfavorable view of Kathy Hochul herself. Now, let's look at the question when the pollster asks, do you want to re-elect Governor Hochul? 42% said yes, they do want to re-elect her, but 48% said they want someone else. And when the pollster asked, well, who would that someone else be? More than half replied that they wanted a Republican. We spoke with Steve Greenberg, the Siena pollster, about how the candidates can use this poll as their roadmap to campaign season.
What Hochul has to do is hold Democrats and see if she can win a majority or at least a significant minority of independent voters and maybe crack a few anti-Trump Republicans. Stefanik has a much harder job. So she's got to hold all the Republicans. She's got to win some of those moderate or more conservative Democrats, and she's got to win the lion's share of independent voters. No Republican can win statewide without doing those three things.
And Siena also polled voters on some other political figures important to New York. Let's take a look at Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani. Siena broke it down also by region. So we see Mamdani would enter City Hall with some goodwill among New York City voters. 57% of New York City voters said he will be good for New York City. But go out to the suburbs, well, 51% of suburban voters said he would be bad for New York City. That could portend some interesting politics and campaigning in a governor's race where there is a statewide electorate. Let's also take a look at Senator Charles Schumer. He is deeply underwater here on his favorability ratings. 55% of voters had an unfavorable view of him. And what is driving that? A drop in support among Democrats. Still, 45% of Democrats have a favorable view of him, but a high percentage, 43%, have an unfavorable view of him in a heavily Democratic state that is bringing down his poll numbers, Errol.
All right. Thanks very much, Dan. We're going to take a short break now. When we come back, City Controller Brad Lander rejected a deal to drop the charges related to his September arrest at an ICE holding center. Instead, he is insisting on his constitutional right to a trial. We'll explain why. Then I'll be joined tonight by City Council member-elect Kayla Santosuosso. We're going to talk about her recent win in southern Brooklyn. And then later, environmental organizations are suing the state over a project that would construct a pipeline from Pennsylvania to New York. I'll talk it over with a leading environmental advocate. Stay with us.
Every day tells a new story. At Mornings on One, we're dedicated to bringing you the stories that matter most to start your day. With in-depth coverage of the day's developing news.
I'm Pat Kernan. Here are the stories we're following this morning.
And weather updates every 10 minutes.
Some morning sunshine possible, clouds take over.
It's our responsibility to get you the information you need before you head out the door. Mornings on One, weekdays starting at 6 on the Spectrum News app. Free for Spectrum customers.
Spectrum TV, isn't that only live TV?
No, it's only all my favorite streaming apps with live TV.
Okay.
It's only all included at no extra cost. And that's the magic of math. Will this be on the test? Sure. Why not?
It's only one simple payment for all our TV. We gotta simplify and win. Winning is equally important.
If not, more so.
Yeah!
Only Spectrum TV, fixed TV.
I'm Sandra, this is Jorge, and we were adopted in 2019. I remember when they first came to us, Michael was already a teenager. The whole cliche of, they're so lucky to have you guys, and it's the other way around. They have changed our family for the better. They chose to love us. They didn't have to. They chose us. Family.
Learn about adopting a teen from foster care. You can't imagine the reward. Visit adoptuskids.org.
And that's a look at some of what's in the papers this morning. We've done with the sports section.
Today's story is about the latest chapter for a beloved local business.
It's a beautiful day with temperatures in the 60s, but showers are expected in the next hour.
In a city that's always on the go, it's important to stop to hear the stories that connect us.
The news that matters to New Yorkers. That's what brings us together. That's Mornings on One.
Weekdays starting at 6.
Exclusively on Spectrum.
Welcome back to Inside City Hall. City Comptroller Brad Lander will be headed to trial following his September arrest at federal immigration court. Lander is requesting the trial to fight misdemeanor charges that he says are unfounded. Our Kelly Mena joins us now with some details. Good evening, Kelly.
Good evening, Errol. And he's going to trial, but the goal is to expose the conditions on the 10th floor at 26 Federal Plaza. Earlier this year, the city comptroller, along with dozens of other city and state officials, were arrested protesting those conditions at immigration court in Lower Manhattan. On Tuesday, the comptroller decided that he was going to forgo a deal that would have made the case go away 6 months ago, instead opting to go to trial with the hopes of exposing the conditions at the building. He said in a statement, by requesting to proceed to trial, in the same way ICE and DHS can ask me what I was doing in the hallway, I will have the opportunity to question the officers about what they were doing on the 10th floor in that detention facility on that day. Now, city, state, and federal officials have been looking to get onto the 10th floor for a couple of months, since really earlier in the summer. The video you're watching right now is from the New York Immigration Coalition that really sparked the push to get onto the 10th floor. That video showing immigrants being detained at that ad hoc facility in squalid conditions where they have at times not been able to use the bathroom for many hours or even get basic hygiene. One requested the city and state officials have gone as far as to request for the Fire and Buildings Department to inspect that 10th floor with the hopes of hopefully getting in, but that has not been fruitful. The comptroller is hoping that this path will be the one that gets them into that area.
And we've certainly given a lot of attention to Brad Lander, but he's going in there with a pretty prominent attorney who can handle himself in public as well.
Yeah, he's going in with Ron Kuby. He's hired a private attorney. That thinking is because this trial may not start until he's out of office, at which point, obviously, he won't be the sitting comptroller. And so he wants to prepare. I was told he actually hired a private attorney. I'm not sure if that was Ron Kuby when he first was detained back in June by himself. But this Kuby knows exactly how the system works. He's practiced in this. He's aware of what is at stake. And really, he knows that the point of this is not about, about the charges that the comptroller is facing, but about trying to get information and details about what's happening on that 10th floor. There really hasn't been anything that's come out of there. We've even seen Congress members try to go up to the door, and they've been denied access, and they're sitting federal officials that should have access to that part of the
Right. So in a lot of ways, the main tool that they have is that they'll be able to get a lot of information from people under oath.
That's right. And under oath, they're going to have to tell the truth, talk about the operations, how they're getting, how long they're holding these migrants here, what the conditions are there, how they're operating with these people there, and whether it's safe conditions. You know, I spoke to a family that had their child there held for some time, and they mentioned how bad she was doing mentally, physically, and deteriorating while she was being held there, Errol.
Okay. Thanks very much, Kelly. Meanwhile, Rama Douaji is hardly a household name, but that's about to change. She's going to become New York City's first lady. Douaji is a 28-year-old artist who was thrust into the international spotlight after marrying Zohran Mamdani in a ceremony at the city clerk's office earlier this year. Douaji did not actively campaign for her husband, and there are questions about whether she will continue to stay in the background after Mamdani takes office. Our Ayanna Harry joins me now with more on our next First Lady. Good evening, Ayanna.
Good evening, Errol. When it comes to being First Lady of New York City, it's really up to each person who holds the position to define the role for herself. Rama Douaji has certainly used her artwork to make bold political statements. It's unclear if she'll also do so through her next platform as First Lady. As a year-long campaign finally came to a close, they walked hand in hand, they voted together, and hours later the newlyweds stood center stage, sharing this moment. Thousands cheered on the new first couple of New York City.
To my incredible wife, Rama. Hayati, there is no one I would rather have by my side in this moment and in every moment.
Aside from Election Day, Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani's wife, Rama Douaji, has largely shied away from politics and from the public spotlight. But now, at 28 years old, she's poised to become one of the youngest First Ladies in New York City history.
Younger women, Muslim women, women of color, women who have immigrant backgrounds, they can relate to her in a way that they haven't been with some previous First Ladies.
Born in Houston, Texas, to Syrian parents, Douaji spent part of her childhood in Dubai before eventually returning to the United States and graduating from Virginia Commonwealth University. After moving to New York City, she completed a master's degree at the School of Visual Arts, and she's grown her career in art. Douaji's animations have been featured in documentaries and in music videos. Her illustrations have lined the pages of The New Yorker and Vogue. In an April interview with Young magazine, Douaji described the motivation behind her work, saying, "With so many people being pushed out and silenced by fear, all I can do is use my voice to speak out about what's happening in the U.S. and Palestine and Syria as much as I can." Douaji also shares her art with her 1.4 million followers on Instagram.
She's also very political in the art that she does. And I think some of what she does really kind of aligns with her husband's positions. But there are times when she's also talking about particularly the experience of women in Middle Eastern culture.
As a couple, Mamdani and Douaji have kept much of their love story private, with Mamdani briefly opening up in interviews.
I met my wife on Hinge, so there is still hope in those dating apps.
In October 2024, Mamdani launched his campaign for mayor and went public with their relationship. In February, the two wed at the city clerk's office, celebrated in Uganda, where Mamdani was born, and then Mamdani returned right back to the campaign trail.
My wife and I were currently in 30-minute increments watching the Mission Impossible series. And we just finished Mission Impossible.
30-minute increments?
We don't have much time.
And the couple's schedule may not be slowing down anytime soon, as Mamdani prepares to become mayor and Douaji First Lady.
One of the most interesting things about being a First Lady is there is no job description anywhere.
Quinnipiac University professor Lisa Burns has studied the role of first spouses and watched those married to politicians in the spotlight chart their own path.
I think the first ladies we've seen over the years that have been most successful are the ones who have really stayed true to themselves. They've figured out sort of where they're comfortable, what they really enjoy doing.
And while she did not have a public presence, New York One has learned that Rama Duwaji did advise her husband's campaign on some of the photography and graphic design used over the last few months. Errol.
Well, yeah, as a visual artist, I mean, Gracie Mansion, the official residence, is a place where art is on display all the time. She could do a lot of work, a lot with that, I would think.
Absolutely. And some first families in the past have chosen to really put their own stamp on Gracie Mansion, to bring in their own artwork, a little bit of furniture. So it's unclear what I don't think Zohran Mamdani has even confirmed that they're going to move to Gracie Mansion, although that apartment in Astoria might get a little crowded, might pose some security challenges. But yes, this could be an opportunity for her to bring some, meaningful art to Gracie Mansion, stuff that means a lot to her.
Very interesting. Thank you, Ayanna. Let's take a break now. When we come back, both chambers of Congress have passed bills to compel the Justice Department to release the files tied to convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. We'll bring you an update from Washington, D.C. next. Stay with us.
At Spectrum News, we're committed to strengthening the fabric of local communities through our reporting, with stories that inspire and news that matters on your smart TV and connected devices, streaming live 24/7, plus on-demand weather forecast to help you stay prepared. It's all there as you step outside with the Spectrum News mobile app, keeping you informed and in the know throughout your day. Spectrum News, free with your Spectrum subscription, exclusively for Spectrum customers, now available on your favorite devices.
It's only a game. It's only a little rivalry. It's only a ritual. When I come home and a few generations. You're always there. And only Spectrum TV includes all your favorite streaming apps with live TV at no extra cost. It's only a game. It's only everything.
Mom was always organized, but she started forgetting to pay her bills on time.
And she'd buy the same gifts over and over.
Telling the girls about my Alzheimer's diagnosis was really hard. At first, we had our cries, but then we were like, okay, let's make a plan.
Early detection gave us time to adapt together.
It's so important for you to think about what you can do and making the most of what you have.
If you or your family are noticing changes, it could be Alzheimer's. Talk about seeing a doctor together.
From my time growing up in Queens watching New York One to my time reporting here, I've seen how quickly a story can change. At News All Day, we bring you the news as it's happening, from around the boroughs to local government to your neighborhood. Because our city never stops moving.
3, 2, 1.
Hi, I'm Shannon Ferry with the day's developing stories. But first,
stay up to date and informed with News All Day, weekdays from noon to 4.
Welcome back to Inside City Hall. Legislation that would order the Justice Department to release its files on convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein sailed through the House and the Senate today. It's awaiting President Donald Trump's signature. It's an extraordinary outcome of a bill that President Trump had spent months opposing. But he reversed himself over the weekend after it became clear that a growing number of his fellow Republicans were prepared to defy the president and vote for disclosure. Spectrum News national political reporter Daniel Grimes has the details from our Washington, D.C. bureau. Good evening, Daniel.
Well, hey there, Errol. Yeah, this all moved really swiftly, and I just want to underscore just how stunning it is that this bill passed both chambers with near unanimous support when just days ago there was tepid support among Republicans.
show some class, show some real leadership, show that you actually care about the people other than yourself. I voted for you, but your behavior on this issue has been a national embarrassment.
A survivor of convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein speaking outside the Capitol on Tuesday, urging the House to vote on legislation that would compel the Justice Department to release its Epstein files. A short time later, the House did just that, approving the bill in a vote of 427 to 1, a margin that seemed unthinkable just a few days ago. Hours later, Tuesday evening, the Senate approved the legislation by unanimous consent, sending it to President Donald Trump's desk. It was a stunning victory for Epstein survivors who pushed for disclosure and for a handful of House members who successfully used a long-shot parliamentary maneuver to get the bill to the House floor over the objection of President Donald Trump and Speaker Mike Johnson.
This is a political exercise for Democrats, and it pains me to say it. I wish that was not the truth, but it is.
Democrats were unanimously for the bill, and over the last week, a growing number of Republicans said they would support it as well in defiance of the president. With its passage appearing increasingly likely, the president reversed himself on Sunday. He called on Republicans to support it and vowed to sign it if it reaches his desk. That caused the remaining holdout Republicans to jump on board. The president was once good friends with Epstein, but he has said he had no knowledge of any wrongdoing, and he has not been accused of any criminal activity in connection with Epstein.
I have nothing to do with Jeffrey Epstein. I threw him out of my club many years ago because I thought he was a sick pervert.
Critics have pointed out that the president could simply mandate the release of the documents himself. Meanwhile, the congressman who kickstarted the discharge petition says it's all about the survivors.
Well, I feel great that we've given them a voice. And it's not a hoax.
Now, the bill requires the public release of all unclassified files, communications, and investigative materials related to Epstein within 30 days. Errol.
It is time for a break now. Coming up next, the City Council is getting a handful of new members next year, including Kayla Santosuosso, who was elected to represent Council District 47 in southern Brooklyn. She's going to join me in studio to talk about her win. Stay with us.
In Focus with Cheryl Wills, a weekly show discussing decisions and potential solutions for issues making an impact in your community and your city. If it's important to New Yorkers, then it's being talked about here. In Focus with Cheryl Wills, Sunday mornings at 10:30 on New York One.
It's only a slice. It's only made possible by Spectrum, connecting businesses of all sizes, like small businesses, instantly serving up orders and inventory on the Spectrum Fiber broadband network, and factories, seamlessly connecting to farmers in the field with tailored solutions that always deliver. It's only a slice. It's only everything. Get your business free fiber-powered internet forever. Call to find out how.
I'm Chris Jakimick. I served in the United States Air Force and I deployed 3 times. So in 2017, I was serving as an Air Force First Sergeant. Our motto in that role is my job is people, everyone is my business. But unfortunately in that year, I would lose my own brother, Lance Corporal Adam Jakimick, to suicide. The majority of veteran suicides are from guns. I store my weapons securely, not only for myself, but for my family. My service never stops.
At Spectrum Noticias, we recognize that our New York City community is vibrant and diverse.
Spectrum Noticias delivers balanced coverage of the stories that matter in our communities and across the country.
Our journalists are based in the neighborhoods we cover, ensuring you get in-depth reporting on what's happening in the places we call home.
So join us at Spectrum Noticias. We're always on, always there for you.
Now available on your TV. Check your local listings. Also available on the Spectrum News app.
Welcome back to Inside City Hall. In less than 2 months, there will be several new faces at the City Council. On Election Day, my next guest, Democrat Kayla Santosuosso, defeated her Republican opponent with 59% of the vote in a closely watched contest to succeed term-limited council member Justin Brannan. Come January, Santosuosso will represent neighborhoods in South Brooklyn, including Bay Ridge and Bath Beach, Dyker Heights, and Coney Island. Councilmember-elect Kayla Santosuosso joins me now to talk about her victory and her plans for office. Welcome to the program and congratulations.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
This has been a swing district for many, many years. And there are Assembly and State Senate districts that overlap with this district that had voted Republican in recent years. Why do you think this worked out for you this time?
We made an effort to try to communicate to voters across the political spectrum about local issues and focus on things that we thought would appeal to everybody. And those were things like affordability, safety, street safety especially, strong schools, clean parks and clean streets and sidewalks. So I think we just had the appeal, and I think we were able to also successfully convince voters that this is a moment when you really want experienced people in your local government seats. And because I've worked for the existing council member and because I'm a lawyer and have also ran a nonprofit and owned a small business, I'm uniquely prepared for the job, and I think voters appreciated that.
On affordability in particular, what did you promise? What do you plan to do as a council member?
The #1 priority is really universal child care, and specifically from ages 0 to 2. We heard on a lot of doors that we had parents that were struggling to meet those child care costs. It can really run an extra rent payment for most families, and so we were seeing families, especially in Bay Ridge, that were getting priced out and moving away because they couldn't afford that child care. So, I'm not the only one calling for this, of course, so I enter a council and I think to some extent into a city with a mayoral administration and a governor's office that recognizes that this is a need. So.
You mentioned doors. It sounds like you did a lot of door knocking.
I sure did.
Yeah, and maybe, but to describe that, because, even at this late date, there are a lot of political candidates who go out there and they think, well, I'll drop some mail, I'll make some appearances, I'll show up at the local clubs. What do you get by door knocking that you can't get any other way?
First of all, I think you get the real temperature check on what people are concerned about. I'm lucky. I get that through working at the council member's office, but you start to go out there and you talk to utter strangers and see what's on their minds. And honestly, that really informs the direction that we take with campaigns and with our priorities. I also think it really gets people to know who you are and what you're about. There's only so much that a mail piece or a media appearance can do, but once I'm in front of someone and talking to them about how I could respond to their specific concern, I think that makes a difference.
And council district, while big, it's not an insurmountable task, right?
No, but requires a lot of work. Yeah. So I got used to not having a life for pretty much 7 months, yeah.
Your Republican opponent outraised you, actually, in campaign contributions.
Yeah, not by much, but I think he did with private funds a bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you had matching funds, though?
I did, yes. Okay. We both did, yeah.
So you're going to make history as the first woman to represent Bay Ridge in the city council.
That's right.
And it's the majority woman council for the second time.
That's right.
Is that important in this moment?
Yeah, I think it is. First of all, just a little bit of history for Bay Ridge. I'm certainly not the first woman to run or to try, but I think voters were really excited this time around to see a fresh face and to see a woman entering in, particularly when we're talking about things like child care, particularly when we're talking about protecting reproductive rights amidst, sort of attacks on the federal administration. So, I think that mattered to voters. I'm happy to be in this role. Yeah.
You mentioned public safety as one of the other issues people are concerned about. What's your plan for the district?
Yeah, so I work with the precincts every day, working for Councilmember Brannan now, and I think it's clear that the precincts are really sort of bogged down by a lot of things that they don't really have control over. So a couple things. One, I'm really encouraged by the creation of these Q teams, the quality of life teams, that are responding to these quality of life issues that lead to larger public safety issues if left unchecked. They're doing a great job, and this is especially true with things like mopeds on our sidewalks and irresponsible driving. So that's great. And I'm encouraged with the new administration, hopefully the idea that we can maybe remove some of the harder to solve issues that maybe don't necessarily belong in the everyday work of the NYPD, so that they can focus on, investigating crime, preventing crime in the first place.
What committees do you want to serve on, and why?
Definitely parks. We have a ton of green spaces in southern Brooklyn. We're very lucky in that way. But there's two issues within parks I want to focus on. One is I want to be able to build more safe, clean, and usable bathrooms in our public parks. I think that's an accessibility issue, a family issue. But it's extremely expensive to do that. So I want to get at the root of why that is and how we can kind of expedite some of that. Yeah. And the second thing is forestry, which is a division of parks that oversees so much of our street tree planting and care. When I was at the law department, I saw how many lawsuits arise from, these sidewalk flags that are lifted by tree roots. I watch, constituents who are having issues with the trees adjacent to their homes that never get pruned and they have to wait for years at a time. So it seems like it's underfunded, under-resourced, but we might have to rework some of the ways that division is set up, and I want to get into that. I also want to be on sanitation to get at the bottom of, why our streets and sidewalks are dirtier than they were pre-pandemic. So
I have spent some time down there, like a lot of other people. There were years where I had to keep going to the dentist, and they're all down there. They're all down there.
Doctor's row, dentist row, yeah.
Yes. But let me ask you this: when it comes to development, housing development, there's been a big controversy in the city council. There was the passage of these charter amendments specifically because the need to increase supply has got to be part of the conversation. How will that play out in your district?
Yeah, so, and we have to keep in mind our district spans from Bay Ridge to Coney Island, and in some ways the housing challenges are different, sort of as you travel.
High rises in Coney Island.
That's right.
Lower density.
And I think Councilmember Brannan in particular has done a pretty good job in the last couple of years of trying to build more affordable housing, particularly on the Coney Island side. I think it was something like 700 apartments this year alone. So we are doing more of that. In Bay Ridge, of course, there's kind of less space in general. But I've always been someone who recognizes that, look, we are in an affordability crisis moment, right? We have a historically low vacancy rate. We should build where it makes sense to build and without fundamentally changing the character of the neighborhood. It's still unclear to me if our district is actually going to be included in those 12 that are going to be affected by, the ballot proposal 2 that passed. But if so, I just want to be able to still use my bully pulpit and my voice and work with the City Planning Commission and the entities that be to say, look, we want housing that people can afford in our district. Let's just make sure it's going, where it makes sense.
I mean, part of what happens is districts like, at least on the Bay Ridge side, that have been lower density, developers get the message over the years and they don't even think about approaching you. Some may approach you now with some ideas about perhaps upzoning or using certain parcels for development, right?
Yeah, and I think Bay Ridge people know that there are areas where it does make sense. We have 4th Avenue, which is really dense. We can't forget that Bay Ridge is home to some of, a large stock of rent-stabilized housing units, and tall buildings and areas, I think, that are industrial where it would make sense to build. So I'm not someone that's categorically against building at all. I just want to make sure, it doesn't totally compromise the character of the neighborhood.
Okay. Now, in our last minute, your first vote will be the most important one. Who do you plan to support for Speaker of the Council?
Yeah, we're lucky. I think we have an embarrassment of riches right now in terms of candidates. And I think it's important to me that it be a woman, particularly because it's the second time around that we're in a women majority council. I'm confident we're going to be in good hands no matter who we end up with.
Okay, I didn't hear a name, though.
Not quite yet. Haven't committed. I'm still an uncommitted person.
Enough. Yeah. All right. Thanks so much for coming by. Congratulations
Thank
again.
you for having me. Thank you.
All right. We're going to take a short break now. When we come back, the state's Department of Environmental Conservation is facing a lawsuit from environmental groups over its approval of a pipeline under the New York Harbor. I'm going to talk it over with a leading advocate who is opposed to the project. That's coming up next. Stay with us.
The next downtown Local 6 train to Brooklyn Bridge City Hall will arrive in 2 minutes.
After 30 years of forecasting for New York, I've learned it takes a dedicated team to cover all the weather our city has to offer.
I'm so honored to be a meteorologist here at New York One because as a Brooklyn kid, this is the station that I grew up watching. Morning, noon, or night, our team is here to bring you accurate forecasts you can count on, from severe weather updates to our weather on the ones. Watch the New York One weather experts on your TV and on the go with the Spectrum News app.
Your entertainment the way you want it. With Spectrum TV, all these streaming apps are included at no extra cost. So you can watch anything. Movies, series, sports, reality, news.
Here's a look at today's top stories.
Exclusive originals.
We await your orders.
And even more of your favorites with live TV. Stream across your devices and enjoy anywhere.
See you later.
Get it all with Spectrum TV.
I'm an ex-drug dealer, and I'll be your sub today. 2 milligrams of fentanyl can be lethal. A lethal dose is in here. Who gets it, I won't know.
It's cheap, it's potent, and it's profitable.
The sad reality is fentanyl is being mixed into everything now.
More kitchen now.
My father was a New York City firefighter. My mission, like his, is to serve New Yorkers in a city that doesn't stop when the sun goes down. Being with New York One since the beginning, I'm now honored to join you even earlier each weeknight. Starting at 8 with New York Tonight, we'll explore the latest news developments, followed by New York One at 10 to wrap up your day. So join me each weeknight starting at 8 right here on New York One.
Welcome back to Inside City Hall. Today, several environmental organizations filed a lawsuit against the state's Department of Environmental Conservation over a proposed natural gas pipeline. This is a look at the Northeast Supply Enhancement Project. It would run beneath New York Harbor to New Jersey. The project has been rejected by the state twice until this year when Governor Hochul approved the pipeline following talks with President Donald Trump. The move has sparked outrage by many environmental organizations, including the Natural Resources Defense Council, which is one of the groups taking legal action. The lawsuit argues that the pipeline project poses significant risks to water quality. Joining me now with more on all of this is Mark Eisman. He's a senior strategist at the NRDC. Welcome to the program. Good to see you.
Well, thanks for having me.
So tell me, I guess the long and short of it is it mostly the Clean Water Act that would be the restriction that you're saying is violated by this pipeline?
Well, under federal law, states can review the pipeline to determine whether it's in compliance with their state water quality standards. This is a 23-mile pipeline under the bay, and twice before, New York environmental officials rejected it in 2019 and 2020, saying it posed risk to water quality. This time, the exact same pipeline, the exact same law, and they gave it the green light.
And so you're arguing that they made it for, they've been arbitrary and capricious about this, or what?
Well, put it this way. Last time they rejected it, and again twice before, and the state of New Jersey also rejected it twice before, they had very detailed legal and scientific reasons on how, in particular, it would harm New York Harbor, which has improved significantly over the last few decades, and we spent billions of dollars improving the water quality there. The other day, when New York State and New Jersey officials approved the pipeline, they didn't give any really rational or grounded reasons for reversing course and approving the pipeline by saying that it would meet water quality standards.
And we changed our minds as not legally sufficient in this case? Do they have that kind of discretion?
No, they really need to follow the law. And again, the application, the pipeline is the same. The laws are the same. The only thing that's changed is the politics.
We're showing it on the screen right now. Do we have anything that tunnels under the harbor in that way?
This project, there's some projects, but this is quite unique. And again, tearing up 23 miles of the seafloor. There's a lot of contaminants down there, PCBs, dioxins, mercury. And again, we've spent billions of dollars cleaning up that harbor, which generates millions and millions of dollars for the local economy, fishermen, shellfish, and recreation. So it's nuts to build this pipeline, particularly since there's no need for it.
Well, yeah, I want to come to that in a minute. I believe everything you say about this would disturb, stuff from the industrial age, right? We've got 100 years worth of pollutants. Maybe we should just leave it there on the floor of the harbor. But is there any alternate route that would satisfy you, or is this really about just making sure we're not putting in more fossil fuel infrastructure?
Well, first of all, the decision that we're talking about and that was challenged in court today, again, not only the decision by New York officials, but also New Jersey officials, they were supposed to look at the water quality. That was the only thing they had to look at. And again, twice before, they looked at it and said this poses an unacceptable risk to water quality. This time, they said, oh, okay, it's fine, let it go. And a separate question is the pipeline necessary? And the state's own data show that there's no need for this pipeline. We wouldn't have, there's going to be a surplus of gas at least for the next 25, if not longer. And by 2050, we'll be have generated a lot more through clean energy.
So you're saying that the state's own projections, because that runs a little bit counter to what we heard from the governor. What the governor said was that, you know, under the circumstances, she said, we've adopted an all-of-the-above strategy that includes a continued commitment to renewables and nuclear power to ensure grid reliability and affordability, meaning we're going to need power because it's a growing region and there's going to be more need.
Well, there's no data to show that actually it would reduce prices in New York City or on Long Island, which is where the gas would go. In fact, the developers, Williams Pipeline Company, admits and acknowledges that it would cost at least 3.5% rate increase for ratepayers here in Staten Island, Brooklyn, Long Island. So we're going to lock in a rate increase over the next several decades to build a pipeline where there's no need for the gas.
But I mean, you keep saying there's no need. You're absolutely certain that over the next 20 to 30 years, we have all the energy we need and prices need not ever go up?
Well, we've looked at the data that the state itself, which is the Public Service Commission, is looking at. And their own data show that there is no need for this gas, at least over the next 30 years. And by then, again, we'll be hopefully reliant mostly on clean energy.
Well, I mean, that's the problem, though, right? I mean, Governor Hochul's statement also, you know, we've certainly reported on it, efforts by the White House to block renewables, right? I mean, at the national level and even specific projects that they've tried to kill here.
Well, it's hard to justify a pipeline on this basis that there's going to be no need for the gas for at least 30 years and probably maybe never, increase rates and also tear up the harbor. So it's, you can talk about affordability, and of course that's an important issue. But on this particular pipeline, actually, it'll increase costs, not reduce them.
Well, I mean, and again, on alternates, I mean, we certainly don't want to tear up, you know, we don't want to pollute the water. But if it had gone over land, you just would have changed the terms of the lawsuit, right? I mean, you wouldn't want this going through neighborhoods in Brooklyn and Queens, right?
Well, again, we didn't design this process. The way that this process is, states have the ability to look at a pipeline that's been approved down in Washington to determine whether it complies with water quality standards. The state, both New York and New Jersey, took that responsibility very seriously in 2019 and 2020, wrote very detailed documents saying this would pose a threat to water quality, and this time they completely reversed their position. And separately, through separate proceedings, it's clear that there's no need for the pipeline, no need for the gas. It's going to increase rates at least 3.5% for ratepayers, and the state itself acknowledges that the pipeline goes against the landmark 2019 climate law that we created here in New York.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I was getting at before. I mean, if the idea is to get a sort of a large-scale transformation of the energy infrastructure away from fossil fuels and towards renewables, there's a theory out there, I don't know if you, it doesn't sound like you accept it, that natural gas is kind of a transition. You know, there's sort of transitional technology. We get away from, you know, sort of coal and oil and sort of, you know, get cleaner burning natural gas as we build up the infrastructure for renewables.
Well, there might have been an argument several decades ago, and maybe in certain parts of the country. But here, there's no need for the gas. The state's own numbers show that. It's going to increase rates. It's going to violate the climate law, and the decision to greenlight it goes against the determinations that state officials here in New York and New Jersey already have made on the impacts of the pipeline to water quality.
Okay. I know you're not a political organization, but there's a political context for all of this. Is it possible that this is, especially because it's already been rejected twice, the governor's way of saying, look, at least I tried, and then a lawsuit came in, and therefore now the pipeline will be dead or not approved?
I mean, it's hard to speculate on what the reasons are, but what the facts show, again, is that the pipeline project is exactly the same one that was denied twice before by New York. The laws for reviewing this pipeline haven't changed. So you have to ask yourself what's changed. And the most obvious thing is the politics and the political pressure that's being put on New York and the governor.
Okay, we shall see. Thanks very much for coming in to explain this, Mark Eisman. Let's take a short break now. When we come back, we'll talk about the life and legacy of a fixture in New York City politics, Sid Davidoff. Stay with us. Here's the deal. People need a place to explore national issues that have an impact on their community. To understand those issues better, we're bringing together our team of local political journalists from across the country to break down what's happening. So join us every week to catch up on the key stories making a big difference across the nation and in your local community.
Watch The Big Deal with Errol Lewis Friday nights at 9 on Spectrum News New York 1. Available on all of your favorite devices exclusively on Spectrum.
There's an international travel plan with Spectrum that was an additional $10 a month as opposed to paying a ridiculous amount per day for roaming fees. This literally felt like my old phone carrier was reaching their hand into my wallet and just helping themselves to some of my cash. I like having no surprises when it comes to my cell phone bill. And with Spectrum, that's been the case. So it saved me a ton of money.
Real customers, real savings. To see how much you can save, visit spectrum.com/save.
Every day tells a new story. At Mornings on One, we're dedicated to bringing you the stories that matter most to start your day with in-depth coverage of the day's developing news.
I'm Pat Kernan. Here are the stories we're following this morning.
And weather updates every 10 minutes.
Some morning sunshine possible, clouds take over.
It's our responsibility to get you the information you need before you head out the door. Mornings on One, weekdays starting at 6 on the Spectrum News app. Free for Spectrum customers.
Welcome back to Inside City Hall. Sid Davidoff, a legendary figure in New York politics, died over the weekend after more than half a century as one of the city's premier power brokers. Our Bobby Kuza joins me now with a look back at a storied political career that began in the administration of Mayor John Lindsay. Good evening, Bobby.
Good evening, Errol. And Sid Davidoff may not have been a household name among the general public, but among the political class, he was certainly a household name. I mean, it is almost unheard of to be so politically influential for as many decades as Sid Davidoff.
Sid Davidoff was a political prodigy. In his mid-20s, he was already a trusted aide to John Lindsay when Lindsay swept into office in 1965.
He ran for mayor against, everyone else was tired and he was fresh, and he brought young people into his administration, a lot of young people, and Sid Davidoff was one of those people.
Liz Holtzman, who would later become a congresswoman and city comptroller, also worked for Lindsay. Davidoff was on the front lines, whether it was a 9-day sanitation strike or the unrest at Columbia University, where Davidoff was sent to negotiate with protesters.
It was an incredible time.
After leaving City Hall, Davidoff would build a 50-year career as one of New York's premier political operators, an informal advisor to mayors and governors. He was a tennis partner of Mayor David Dinkins and a strong supporter of Mayor Bill de Blasio.
You may seal your vows with a kiss.
Who officiated his wedding to Linda Stacy at City Hall.
He's the alpha and the omega. Anybody involved in politics or government knows the name of Sid Davidoff.
Longtime State Assemblyman Keith Wright, after leaving office, joined Davidoff's law and lobbying firm, which Davidoff built into a powerhouse.
He was a real griot. He knew the history. He had institutional memory, and people came from far and wide to seek his advice.
Davidoff, who was raised in Queens and attended City College and NYU Law School, was described in this 1967 New York Times profile as Lindsay's walking guide to the streets of New York.
The mayor's schedule, once he left City Hall, was mine. It was when he went to the communities, into the neighborhoods, whatever it was that was under my jurisdiction.
Perhaps his biggest point of pride, Davidoff was number 12 on President Richard Nixon's enemies list, which caused him to be investigated by the IRS and others. In an opinion piece last year, he wrote, "I think it should absolutely be carved into my gravestone. He was lucky enough to be on Nixon's enemies list."
They saw the way to get to Lindsay was to go through me. And they made my life somewhat hell.
Respected on both sides of the aisle, Davidoff was honored on the floor of the House Tuesday by Republican Congressman Mike Lawler.
He worked right up to the end, always thinking about what more he could do for the city and state he loved.
But it was the tumultuous Lindsay era where admirers say he truly left his mark.
Sid Davidoff, in essence, helped to make it possible for Lindsay to govern the city. And we all still owe him an amazing debt of gratitude for that.
And so many great Sid Davidoff stories I can even get into in the piece, including after Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated and John Lindsay famously went and walked the streets of Harlem. Sid Davidoff was the one who was on the ground sort of setting that up and making sure that things were going to go smoothly. When he got there, which was a very explosive situation. And so many other stories like that. He was really in the thick of things, and that was a long time ago, and he continued to be so politically influential in the 50-plus years.
Yeah, really. It was a tumultuous time. We did this whole documentary on it, and he was extremely helpful when we were writing about the Lindsay years, doing our podcast about the Lindsay years. And, he was right in the middle of the Hard Hat Riot, the Columbia takeover, the riots, or the near riots up in Harlem that he helped to head off. And he would tell these stories that, they were kind of matter of fact, that he was supposed to be in the middle of things and fix them, and that's pretty much what he did.
Right, and he didn't really have a title that was like deputy mayor or chief of staff. He was kind of just this fixer, right? He was an aide who was on the ground talking to communities, and because of that, he was really in the middle of all of these episodes.
Really an extraordinary man. Thanks, Bobby. So Davidoff was 86 years old.
And that's a look at some of what's in the papers this morning.
You've done at the sports section.
Today's story is about the latest chapter for a beloved local business.
It's a beautiful day with temperatures in the 60s. But showers are expected in the next hour.
In a city that's always on the go, it's important to stop to hear the stories that connect us.
The news that matters to New Yorkers. That's what brings us together. That's Mornings on One.
Weekdays starting at 6.
Exclusively on Spectrum.
Your entertainment the way you want it. With Spectrum TV, all these streaming apps are included at no extra cost. So you can watch anything.
Hey, brother. Be careful.
Movies.
I've got this condition where I don't feel pain.
You're a superhero.
No.
Series.
There was another murder in the building.
Sports. Reality.
Here's to a summer you'll never forget.
News.
Here's a look at today's top story.
Exclusive originals.
We await your orders.
Even more of your favorites with live TV.
Welcome into First Take.
Stream across your devices and watch anywhere. At home or out and about. It's the entertainment experience you've been waiting for. Streaming apps included at no extra cost.
Who's got that, pal? Get a good look.
With live TV and on demand. All together, all in one place for you to enjoy.
It's whatever kind of adventure we want it to be.
Get it all with Spectrum TV.
At Spectrum News, we're committed to strengthening the fabric of local communities through our reporting, with stories that inspire and news that matters on your smart TV and connected devices. Streaming live 24/7, plus on-demand weather forecast to help you stay prepared. It's all there as you step outside with the Spectrum News mobile app, keeping you informed and